What is up, everybody? Year 11. I am here, played Crystal Beasts. They had a ton of new support this year. I've loved Crystal Beasts since Force of the Breaker came out. That really, honestly, my love of Crystal Beasts probably spurred the fact that we had the first tournament in the first place. And so I had to play them. Ran the Conclave Control version, and since this will be on YouTube, shout out to Neshi. He's the Crystal King. Appreciate all that he does for Crystal Beasts, so it's been fun. So this is my little version of the Conclave Control version. So I'll just get into the deck, and I'm not gonna explain anything because I'm assuming everybody knows who's gonna watch. But for the Crystal Engine, for the monsters, 3 Pegasus, 2 of the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, 1 Cobalt Eagle, 1 Ruby, a fairly standard line you'll see, and then the 1 mandatory Rainbow Dragon that you have to search off the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. I really liked this. I've seen some people run 3 of this. You could probably make that work, but this worked for me. So that's for the Crystal Monsters. For the spells, it's a lot of green, as Neshi would say, but 3 Rainbow Bridge, searches anything. 3 Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, one of my favorite cards of the new cards. Basically the new field spell is kind of how I think about it. And 3 Awakening. I see some people run 2. Maybe that works for them, but I just love having the 3rd. I think it's just such a versatile, cool card. And then 2, Crystal Bond. For the Conclave Control, this was sufficient. I liked 2. I tested 1, but I liked 2. And then for the traps, the 3 Conclave and 2 Miracle. Debated cutting this to 2 because I do run 41 cards, but I felt that because the effect isn't a once per turn effect, I would rather, the fact that you can activate 2 at the same time and target the same card bounce. Going first, I was fine seeing multiples if I happen to draw it. So fairly standard lineup of the crystal stuff, but those are the spells and traps. And then for the other semi-crystal engine, semi-just generic, 2 Foolish Burial Goods, 1 Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, probably my other favorite new card that's come out, 1 Necro Valley, and 1 Secret Village is what I mained. So I debated one of these as well. Again, 41 cards, but with 2 Foolish, 2 Crystal Bond, with everything else, you end up running 10 copies of Sapphire Pegasus, which I just felt was just a tad more consistent in testing compared to the 9. Necro Valley is pretty much standard because it just turns off Graveyard. Really worked well. And then Secret Village, similarly, I wanted to main another field spell that just turned off something that my opponent did. And so when we get to the extra deck, I'll show you. And it came up today against Striker of all decks, which pretty much destroyed him. So that felt good. And then this is kind of my spice engine, but you'll see it. You'll see it if you look up YouTube videos, but I ran 1 Circular, 1 Sigma, and 1 Equation. And the thought process here was I felt that Crystal Beasts are a weakness of the deck is that you're so reliant on Pegasus and that normal summon, that's inevitable. And so what's awesome about Circular is you don't have to use a normal summon. Circular by himself is a full combo, which I'm sure you can look up. He's a light, they're both light, they're both level 4. And there's actually some crazy synergy with these cards that you end up not having to lock yourself into the Cyberse. So this really worked well, and getting into the extra deck, I think it'll make more sense too. But this worked out really well. You basically have 10 starter cards to get to Pegasus, and then the 11th card is Circular, which for the ratios just, yeah, that really worked. And then for hand traps, I mained 3 Shifter and 2 Imperm. This was 3 Ash for a while. And because our format was like, it was a handful of rounds of Swiss, I just felt like it was so important. Every game was just more important, and being able to just win a turn was more important. And Shifter is a very high impact trap card that I can play around. So I just decided, you know what, going first or second, I'm just gonna try to play around it. And then same with the Imperm. I didn't run 3 because it can clog up the back row. And 5 hand traps was sufficient. I unfortunately didn't see Shifter today. It would have been kind of nice, but I'm fine with the theory. And then the last cards of the deck are 3 Talent and a Called By. this is maybe the 41st card if you want to think of it that way, but I liked having 4 cards that if I was hand trapped, I could still play. Talents wasn't too impactful. It came up like once today, but this deck, it's still technically rogue, and so it can lose to a hand trap. A single hand trap, a single well-placed Ash can really hamstring you in some cases, and so being able to still play as much as possible I felt was important. So that's 41 in the main deck. In the extra deck, I ran the Zeus, and then Baguska, Dweller, Tornado Dragon, Dugaris as a fairly standard. Zeus is so important, but I would consider trying to retool the deck in different ways, which I can go into maybe later. And then this is to go along with that Mathmech package. I ran a Allen version, Link Disciple, Leak Devotee. Just to quickly talk about this, it's pretty much like half of the standard Mathmech combo, but what's cool about the synergy is Allen version you can make with just 2 level 4s. So 1 copy of Pegasus at all can make him, which searches circular, and you're in business. The advantage of that combo in certain cases is that Link Disciple puts a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck, and if you draw Rainbow Dragon or the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation and you want to just get it out of your hand, this does that. And you can also go into Dugaris through this combo as well, and that's drawing 2 more cards. So you can draw 3 cards, pitch 2, or an opportunity to pitch 2, and it's free. It's without a normal summon, and it doesn't really hinder you at all. You just have to watch out for you can't do Link 3 or highers, and you can't do Cyberse. So that was a fun little spice. I would probably change that going forward just to do something different with the deck, but I didn't mind it. And then what you usually go into is the IP package, and I ran Appaloosa, Unicorn, and Phoenix. I just liked having a 4-3-2 option. Utility cards, Appaloosa came in handy today. These are good. I love IP, so I wanted to run a deck that played IP. The Mathmech engine allowed me to do that a little more effectively, even though usually you're going into a rank 4 if you're going into your extra deck at all with this deck. And then the last 3 cards were Light Charmer and Wind Charmer. And then the access code. The Light and Wind Charmer, every monster in your main deck is a Wind or a Light with the Mathmech cards and stuff. So being able to go into either one with maining Secret Village made it live pretty easily. I went into... it worked today, so I was really happy with that. And I got Drolled, went into Win, stole the Droll. I got Veilered, went into Lina, stole the Veiler. It worked actually exactly as designed, so that was really cool. And the access code just to try to win games. Didn't summon him, but in theory it would work. There's a big extra deck confluence there. And then for the side deck, so I felt pretty good about the side deck, although I wish, more matchups, I maybe would have been able to use more of the cards just based on the decks I faced. Nibiru didn't feel very strong at all. I faced a lot of trap decks today, but it's a very high impact, good against combo decks. I did end up deciding to side the Ash, which I was glad I did. I could have probably even sided the D-Shifter and mained Ash. It's kind of depending on who you think you're going to face. I made a call, but it was a good generic hand trap. And then I did side 2 Lava Golem as well. For just those, it's just a board breaker card, and there's a lot of spinning, returning to hand and deck with Crystal Beast, and so you can Lava Golem and then return it back to your hand, which is pretty nasty as well. So those are kind of some going second cards. And then I did side the 1 Zombie World for, there were going to be some decks that Secret Village wasn't going to do anything against, potentially even Necro Valley. And so just having another field spell option to side into so that I actually had a card that was going to be effective. Zombie World usually is going to, some combination of those 3 field spells are going to help, and Zombie World can do that. And then for back row decks, 3 Cyclone. I faced a lot of them today, so Cyclone was useful. And then the last card was 3D Barrier. For siding and going first, you basically can just take out the shifters if you want to and side Barrier or some other cards and do the Barrier. There was a Despia player, it comes up, and again, it can just kind of turn off a turn and really put your opponent in a tough spot. So I just really wanted to go with high impact cards. So yeah, overall, I think I'm disappointed with the overall result probably this year. I felt like I put in a decent amount of time in crafting the deck, but it was super fun. And it worked exactly as I intended it to work. It's just sometimes your opponent top decks the single copy of Ghost Ogre they have in their deck to Ghost Ogre your Zeus to win. And that would have been Top Cut, but I won the real Top Cut prize, which was my wife.